The boardroom overlooked the Chicago River, all steel and winter light. Our company name, Harcourt Logistics, was etched into the glass wall in frosted lettering. It had been my grandfather's name once. Now it belonged mostly to my sister, Claire, at least in spirit. She stood at the front of the table, remote in hand. Confidence draped over her like a tailored coat. Phase 3 accelerates our Midwest warehousing footprint, she said, clicking to a slide full of upward curves. With the additional $85 million secured, we'll break ground by Q3. Secured. I wrote the word down. I sat halfway down the table, not at the head with Dad, not beside Claire. Legal pad open, navy blazer, no presentation queued behind me. I had funded the expansion through Alder Ridge Capital, my private investment firm, but in the Harcourt hierarchy, I was still the younger daughter who consulted. Claire paused, glanced at me, and smiled in that thin way she'd perfected in prep school. Some of us prefer spreadsheets and safe little side ventures, she added lightly, but this is real scale. A few board members chuckled politely. Dad didn't laugh. He nodded. Leave operational business to professionals, he said. Not unkindly. Just conclusively, it was familiar choreography. Claire was the operator. Dad the patriarch was tolerated capital. I kept writing. Projected revenue. Debt ratio. CapEx exposure. Risk concentration in 3 adjacent counties already oversaturated with fulfillment space. Claire's model assumed uninterrupted demand growth. It ignored freight volatility. It ignored the labor shortage that had already slowed 2 of our competitors. It ignored that interest rates had ticked up twice in the past year. It ignored the clause in our funding agreement. I didn't interrupt her. I didn't correct her assumptions. I didn't defend myself. When the CFO began discussing bridge financing timelines, I slid my phone from my notebook. Evan, investment director, I typed carefully. Initiate liquidity recall on Harcourt Phase 3 vehicle. Full withdrawal, effective immediately. I watched the text sit there for a breath. Then I pressed send. Claire continued speaking. Once construction begins, we'll leverage. Her phone buzzed. Then the CFO's. Then Dad's. A murmur shifted through the table like wind across fabric. The CFO frowned at his screen. Excuse me, he muttered. Stepping out into the hallway, Claire kept going, but her rhythm faltered. Another vibration. She glanced down, her color changed first, not dramatically. Just enough. Dad checked his phone slowly, brows drawing together. What is this? He asked, not to anyone in particular. The CFO returned faster than he'd left. We've received notice from Alder Ridge. The $85 million tranche has been recalled. Effective immediately. Silence doesn't feel cinematic in real life. It feels administrative. Air conditioning humming. A pen rolling somewhere. Claire blinked. That's knots or committed. The CFO looked at me. Not accusing. Confirming. It's a discretionary liquidity provision, he said carefully. They're within their rights. Dad turned toward me fully for the first time that morning. Margaret. I set my pen down. Les. Is this an error? No. Claire stared at me as if I'd spoken in another language. You're pulling funding. In the middle of a board meeting. I'm exercising the review clause, I said evenly. Market conditions have shifted. The exposure is higher than originally modeled. Her voice sharpened. You could have raised concerns privately. I have. I said. Twice. Dad's authority usually filled a room. This time it felt thinner. This expansion is critical to our growth. It may be. I agreed. But not at this leverage ratio. Not with 3 competitors breaking ground within 50 miles. And not with interest rates climbing. The CFO cleared his throat. Without the Alder Ridge capital, we cannot proceed without assuming significant debt. The word hung there, debt. Claire's jaw tightened. You're sabotaging this because you don't like not being in charge. I met her eyes. I didn't look away. I'm protecting my investment, I said. And the company's balance sheet. No one laughed this time. Dad leaned back slowly. What would it take to reinstate funding? There it was. The shift, not emotional. Structural, third-party risk audit, I said. Revised projections with stress testing for rate increases and demand contraction. And governance oversight on expansion decisions exceeding $50 million. Claire let out a sharp breath. You want a seat on the operations committee. I want accountability. The board members were no longer watching Claire. They were watching me. The CFO spoke again, more confidently now. A temporary suspension pending audit would be prudent. Dad looked between us. His two daughters, his two versions of the future. Finally, he nodded once. Pause the expansion. He commissioned the audit. Claire's shoulders stiffened. Dade, it's responsible, he said quietly. The authority intervention was unmistakable, not loud, not theatrical, but final. The meeting adjourned without applause, chairs scraped. Papers gathered. Claire approached me as the room emptied. Her voice was low. You embarrassed me. I wasn't trying to. She studied my face, searching for satisfaction. There wasn't any. I don't doubt your ambition, I said. I doubt the timing. She didn't respond. She just walked past me, heels sharp against the floor. Dad lingered. You could have warned us, he said. I did, I answered gently. He didn't argue. Outside, the river moved steadily under gray sky. My phone buzzed again, Evan confirming the funds were secure. I didn't feel victorious. I felt correctly positioned, not decorative. Not dramatic. Simply undeniable. The expansion might return after the audit, it might not. Claire might forgive me. She might not. But the next time I sit at that table, no one will suggest I stick to little side jobs. They'll wait for me to speak.